What's up, everybody? It's your boy Eric from Easy Computer Solutions, and this is Saturday Night Tech Talk, one of my favorite nights of the week. And tonight, guys, I got a special guest. Man, one of my idols, one of the guys that I watch all the time. I got Juan Bagnell in the building, y'all. And I'm gonna wait. Look, I know I got a lot of people that go come on this stream tonight because I've been kind of tweeting this out myself because I'm so excited about it. Juan Bagnell, what's up with you?
I'm ready to do this, man. That's like the nicest, the kindest intro. I think I'm super flattered. I'm blushing over here. This is gonna be some tech love during this podcast.
Yes. And I tell you what, look, I've been doing YouTube for 3.5 years, right? And this is like one of my dreams. Like, yeah, I want to have that. I can have a stream with all celebrities because I'm not nobody, but I want to get celebrities. And I just feel honored that I'm able to kind of get this done. And my audience, they send me a lot of emails or tweets. Please, could you get this person or this person? And I try my best to try to reach out to a lot of people, and it's happening. All right.
Well, it's all about joining a conversation. So I mean, I appreciate anyone who thinks that I'm worth having on to talk about this stuff. But you know, when I got started, a couple larger players helped me out, gave me a hand up, gave me a lift up, and I'll be forever grateful there. But I think we're also in the right time where joining the conversation on all sides, from the people who are streaming our content, like participating, joining in the live chat. I'm already seeing some folks in the live chat that are already throwing in some comments. Yeah. These things matter, even the silly little wacky consumer tech stories that we're talking about. This stuff is a big deal. And I think we're due a geek renaissance. I think for a while where tech won and geek became chic, and everybody now has technology all over themselves, wearables and smartphones and different types of laptops and tablets and stuff. The voices of geeks has been kind of devalued a little, right? Yeah. I don't get into that nerdy stuff, but I own a $900 cell phone. Okay. Right. But now when it comes to politics, when it comes to health, when it comes to science, when it comes to education, when it comes to all the kids that were out marching today and all the families that were participating in this conversation, the geeks, we need to be those voices in our circles of family and friends that can help people sort out how they feel about things, or what the problems are, or how to spend their money. Money's tight all around, man. Like, we need to be those resources for everybody so that we can help our family and friends make those good decisions, make those good choices.
Yeah, and I've been saying this on my YouTube channel for the last couple of months, that the $1,000 phone era is over. I mean, you got to be kidding me, right? I mean, you got that for all good and reference. Apple, we could talk about Apple a little bit. Apple been selling high-end iPhone for a very long time. I mean, we already know that if you buy a 256 gig iPhone, a 128 gig iPhone, you're going to pay the high-end over $1,000 price point. But to start off at $1,000, that kind of freaked everybody's head out. And but I think we starting to see that. I mean, economy is one thing, right? But when you're trying to say, okay, this little bitty phone. With my iPhone, I got a bunch of phones here. This little bitty phone.
I'm gonna show you my desk is the same thing. It looks like a Best Buy vomited all over my office.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. Like, this little bitty phone costs over $1,000. So when you review mid-tier phones, right? Like the Motorola X4, one of my favorite phones, and that's one of the phones that I give as an example. $300+ right? I mean, you could get it for $250. So when you're talking about $1,000 phone and a $250 phone, okay, so if I go on Instagram, Facebook, all my social media, that phone could do just as great as any other phone, right?
Right.
What warrant the price point? I mean, the Galaxy Note 8 was like $980, right? So I mean,
and we're definitely seeing we're definitely seeing. I think we're still in for the lobster pot effect of prices climbing on phones. I don't think we've seen an upper limit on a manufacturer putting out a phone over $1,000.
Yeah.
Now, that's where it's up to us to start having those conversations. And I'm not literally you and me. I mean, like, everyone who's watching this. That's where it's up to us to have those conversations on what exactly are you buying into at that price point. And I do think there could be a good faith argument. If you look at a company like Red, if Red puts out a smartphone, it's a $1,500 phone. I'm going to have an expectation on what's inside that thing to warrant that cost.
Yes.
Now, when it comes to Apple and to a much lesser degree Samsung, I think we're also having conversations on infrastructure. I think we're having conversations on warranty and support, and we're having conversations on fashion, label, and branding, because you can't charge $700 for an iPhone 10 with $1 billion advertising campaign and an infrastructure of Apple stores that phone is going to have to support. So if that's a value to the people in your circles of family and friends, and they want something that they can show off that they spent $1,000 on a phone, I'm not going to besmirch that person any more than I would maybe roll my eyes a little at someone who's rocking a Louis Vuitton. You know, I that's not my style. That's not how I present myself, and that's not how I advertise what's in my bank account, or more specific, what's not in my bank account. I bought a Louis Vuitton. But to that token, I feel that if there's something emotionally satisfying about you spending $1,000 on an iPhone 10, cool. But that's not the kind of conversation I want to have. And we did tap into this a little this last episode on Newegg, where they let us do a segment on mobile production, like the stuff you really do. And I'm getting to the point. I'm really happy that you brought up the Moto X4. I have so many family members that are on Moto G, G4, and G5s.
Yeah.
That the bang for buck ratio is just too good to pass by some of those phones, especially like my little sister's. You know, she just graduated with her PhD. You know, she's got student loans. She's not spending $700, $800, $900 on a phone, but she's not doing anything on a phone that warrants spending $700, $800, $900. Think about the family members around you who are rocking the latest Galaxy, the latest iPhone, and you know, they check their Facebook and they tweet and they text message on it. Why? You know, we used to make fun of the person who would buy a $3,000 iMac for the web browser to go on Facebook. We're at that point. I'm looking at, like, I want $1,000, $1,500 specialist phones, because I want phones with incredible cameras, and I want phones that can produce 4K video, not just shoot 4K video, but edit and render and color correct, color grade, chroma key, and deliver a high quality 4K video file on the back end with proper HEVC support in titles and graphics and multiple audio tracks. Are you doing that on a phone? Then you're not really getting $900 out of your phone.
And that's the thing. And you know what? I think this year, what we're going to see is this is the year of the notch, right? I always show off my notch, right? This is the year of the notch. And it was so funny back at CES.
Oh, you do actually have a proper notch.
I got a notch. Great. So
it's like the old school, like Punisher art style. Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah.
So Asus, it was hilarious. Asus, with their keynote address, said that their notch was 30% smaller than the iPhone notch. And I mean, I almost fell out when I saw that, right?
Yeah, that's really funny.
Then we hearing conflicting reports about the OnePlus 6. Here we got the notch. We got the Oppo come out with their device with the notch.
That worked out well for us last year with what was it, the R7?
The R7.
We essentially got that sneak preview that it makes sense for OnePlus to be borrowing from the parent company there, because it's cheaper. You know, it's kind of like when Volkswagen and Porsche share the frame on an SUV. You're like, well, both companies make very different vehicles, but they get to share costs there. I think the notch is terrible, and it's like literally one of the worst things that has happened to Apple design. Because there used to be a philosophy that I think Steve Jobs was a champion of, where whatever you're doing on the phone should get out of the way of the consumer's activity, which means that the screen becomes one of the most important aspects of interacting with a piece of technology. And Apple, this incarnation of Apple, literally cut into the screen to beef up the web camera, the selfie camera, and that's garbage. That's terrible. The only way that could have been palatable, and this is why I'm still gonna hate on Android phones doing the notch. But Android is built in a way where that top area can be relegated into just notification.
Yeah.
And you can tell the phone, and I'm hoping that these manufacturers that are copying the notch will tell the software on the phone, never let content bleed into that top notch area.
Mm-hmm.
If Apple had come out and said, this is digital bezel and our aspect ratio is closer to 2:1, I think I would be a lot less angsty about the notch.
Yeah.
I still think it looked ugly. I don't like bat ears. I don't like the unibrow. This is not a good look for a device, IMO. But the second you fire up a video, and it's up to the user to change a setting to rein in, video getting cut into on the side asymmetrically.
Yeah.
Again, that's also Apple making an asymmetrical product just doesn't work in my brain. This is a company that's supposed to be all about like elegance and refined
perfection,
hardware and
beauty.
And this is just not a good look. So again, I kind of feel the notch in the way that we understand the Android notification tray at the top will be less destructive, but I still think it looks garbage, especially when you compare it to like Xiaomi. The Mi Mix 2, that little corner cutout, that tiny little chunk where, okay, that's still technically cutting into the screen, but it's doing it so much more discreetly. It's not smack dab in the middle of the display, really drawing the eye to that detail. And all you have to do is offset the clock, what would have been the equivalent of like 50 pixels.
Right.
Okay, that's way less offensive. I can definitely back that.
But when the Essential did it, okay, so when the Essential phone came out, the biggest problem, and a lot of people don't understand this, is that when Essential did it with the notch, they didn't get the software right. So that's why they had so many problems with the Essential phone, that when it first came out, they had problems because of the notch and the software. It just couldn't get it that right. So that's why you had app crashing. It was not fully optimized. You had a lot of issues with the Essential phone when it first came out. So that's why you get all these software updates with the Essential phone, because in the beginning it was terrible. It was laggy, it was buggy, the apps crashed. It was a terrible device.
And that's not all on the notch. I just think Essential bit off a little bit more than they could chew before they delivered that product.
Right. It was way more than a notch, but
But you're absolutely right in that notch contributed to something, because Android really isn't that smart. Android isn't good at figuring out that something is different in the ecosystem than what's normally a part of our smartphone experience. And so, to smaller degrees, LG faced some issues on the G6.
Yeah.
If you remember that very first iteration of the very first ROM that they had out on the G6. Well, actually, I might be remembering this from having a pre-release unit too. I might be blending this in with pre-release software. But having the corners curved, was a difficult transition for developers to figure out how to make Android work the best on having that 2:1 aspect ratio and curved edges on the screen, because it's not a proper rectangle.
Right.
So for all this noise, and I loved like Bloomberg putting it out there, like Android P was going to be all about copying the iPhone 10. Dumbest story I think I've seen from a consumer tech perspective. At least what I hope to see is, if we can make Android a little bit more screen aware.
Yeah.
Sure, it means that manufacturers don't have to work as hard in messing with notches. But I also hope that means that we can have an Android that understands when it's connected to another display without a ton of proprietary software running on top.
Yeah.
That maybe we'll have Android be able to say, do you want me to mirror your display, or do you want this to be an extended workspace?
Right.
How cool would that be? You plug a USB-C cable directly into your phone. Right now, it does a great job of mirroring your display. But then you could also say, hey, all I want you to do is just throw video over here, and I want to continue working on my main screen. We can, these things are already so insanely powerful that we could be, a lot of us could do very well leaving our laptops at home and only traveling with our phones, if we had just a few more of these little lifestyle additional like accessory type situations that could take away some of the pain points on trying to do everything on a small screen.
But you see now that Android P is going to build the software with the notch. So it brings me to my next question.
Well, I don't think.
You don't think? Okay.
No. I don't think that the main focus is the notch. I
Okay.
think the focus for Android P is to start delivering different form factors, multiple screen devices, foldable screen devices.
Okay.
And like, look at the teething pains that Axon, that ZTE has with the Axon.
Oh yeah, with X on them, yeah.
Yeah, so you flip out that extra screen, and Android doesn't know what the hell to do with that until
Right.
it literally pushes a button at the bottom to say mirror the display or extend the display. That's bad.
Yeah.
But that's not on ZTE. That's because Android is dumb. Android doesn't know what to do with that display until it's literally given a command where then a proprietary piece of software can say, oh, no, you have this whole extra display. So extend this so now you're more like a tablet than you are like a phone.
Right.
I really hope that Android P, it's bad to have hope in the tech space, right? Sometimes our hope is just dashed. I really hope that Android P makes Android more aware of what it's being used on. So if it's a notch, whatever. Okay, fine. But if that also means you flip out an extra display or you dock it and it connects to an ultra wide monitor.
Yeah.
That then Android can intelligently say, okay, well, now my UI should look like this.
Yes.
Now I should be able to extend all of these apps and icons and shortcuts out here. Now I should be able to do like a cinema video and not have to worry about weird letterboxing or having a 16:9 aspect ratio on a 21:9 monitor.
Right.
You know, those types of things I think can go a long way. And it shouldn't be up to Samsung to make decks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I'm glad that Samsung has them because I'm glad that a company's still out there pushing the limits on what it is that we can do from our phones. But this is absolutely something that I hope Google's going to rip off.
Yeah. But you know what? This thinking about that, right? Let's call it how it is. Android P is going to be a wonderful thing, just like Android N, just like Android, all these other iterations of Android. But when you only get 2% of Android devices that's going to be running Android P,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, you know, but all right. So right now, is it a statistic in 2018? It's less than 30% of Android devices running Android. What we at right now? Nougat, Oreo. I mean,
I don't know if Oreo's even. You know, I mean, we should probably look that up. I don't know if Oreo has properly cracked into double.
I don't even think. I don't think so now. I think we still under.
S9 sales all by themselves will probably kick us over 10% by the end of this fiscal quarter.
Right.
But you're not wrong. And this is also one of the things that I think Google is trying to own in the most hamstrung way that they can. They unfortunately let all the horses out of the barn and they're trying to corral them back in now. So with Android, with O, there was some quiet manipulation from Google, stuff that I appreciate, but some quiet manipulation from Google where if you released a phone at the end of 2017 and you released it with Nougat, you could then deliver an Oreo update, but Google didn't make it mandatory that Project Treble would be a part of that update. If you released a phone with Oreo, Google is mandating to be a part of their licensing and their program here that it has to be Project Treble compliant. So those types of moves and other things too, you know, like in Oreo, the way that Oreo handles background tasks and radio management and battery management and whether apps can call different pieces of hardware when the screen is off. Google is trying to rein in bad actors, people who are putting on heavier skins than they need to, apps that are probably not from the nicest developers that are trying to
rogue
pieces of information. Those types of things, Google is baby stepping. So if they were to just draconianly say, this is exactly what Android needs to be, and we're going to be more like the iPhone, everyone would run screaming from the situation. But what I'm assuming is we're going to be seeing this lobster pot effect until we see some type of major OS re-arc with like what is it, Project Fuchsia?
Yeah,
one of the things that they were demoing and trying as a pilot program. I do eventually believe that what we call Android 2 or 3 years from now will be far closer to an iOS style ecosystem to try and rein in some of those problems, because we have significant issues with security updates, bug fixes, patches, let alone major operating system updates.
Right.
If you're on a Galaxy, you know you're never going to get until the new Galaxy. So there's, again, there you went and spent $900 on a phone. Cool.
Yeah.
But I have an S8 that I'm still waiting on the proper. I'm doing the experiment again. Every year. I don't rush out to try and flash it or try and be ahead of the curve or say I'm a tech journalist. Where's my OS update? I want to see what consumers face. And I have an S8 Plus that I don't know when it's going to get Oreo. I fire it up every day and run the little, like, is there an update? Nope. Okay, I'm 2 months behind on my security patches too. This kind of isn't okay for how expensive this phone was.
And you know what? And that's one of the things that I preach on this YouTube channel. And a lot of people, Samsung people, always hit me up and say, well, I don't want to update. Why y'all crying about updates? And I try to explain it every time but people always yell at me about updates. So my phone is working fine. Why I don't need security patches? I don't need an update. I don't want to run Oreo. My phone is working just fine. And I think the one thing I say is Windows XP. If you're running Windows XP, I just say Windows Vista, Windows, old operating system, and you try to run an EXE program and it doesn't work. Your printer doesn't work. Why your printer doesn't work? It's because you're running an outdated operating system.
Right.
You know, one of the biggest things is, like, at my business, I'm running a tablet that's running like Jelly Bean. No apps will work on it. No apps. So when you say, do we want updates? Hell yeah, I want my updates, especially when I paid $1,000. If I pay $1,000 for a phone, folks, I want an update. This is why I'm so hard on Apple and Samsung. People criticize me a lot for that, because Apple and Samsung they want to be the Jaguar. They want to be the Mercedes. They want to be the high end. We are the best of the best. Okay, then if you are the best of the best, why I got to wait 20 months for an update? That's my thing. If you look, OnePlus is doing it great. OnePlus give you all the updates. They give you 20 gigs of RAM. They give you whatever you want for $600.
Right. Although they'll also ship all your user identifier data to a Chinese cloud account. But it's still good. No, it's again, it's like we shouldn't really be having to make that compromise. Like I adore the UI and user experience on a Pixel, but damn, that hardware doesn't do anything for me. That is not my jam. That totally doesn't get me off. I want much more inspiring hardware than that, and so I have to make that compromise right now. If I get the hardware I want, I have to use a phone that I know. I mean, like, I can't even hope. It's like, I know the software experience is going to be not only be lagging behind, but is probably going to be inferior. And so those are the choices that we have to make. But what I'm kind of hoping, and this sucks because it takes away some of the original charm of what got me into enjoying the Android experience in the first place. But in reining this stuff in, if Google does make Android just a bit more restrictive, just a bit more of a walled garden, and they can start tackling the relationship between consumers and software developers directly, it'll be a bit more like iOS, but I think we will stand to improve the overall experience for everybody. Unfortunately, probably at the expense of some of the minority of enthusiasts out there that like, flashing their own ROMs and developing their own custom code and stuff. So again, it's a tricky place because I have to balance those enthusiast concerns over like all of my other family and friends.
Right.
Honestly, like I want to see them have a better experience. And I completely appreciate when they come with concerns about things like when there was a Wi-Fi exploit or a Bluetooth exploit. And you're like, well, it's not likely that someone's going to take data off your phone because they have to be within Bluetooth range of you. But you do have a gaping hole there in your security, and your phone only costs $200. So it's highly unlikely you're ever going to get a bug fix. Sorry. That's not okay. It doesn't, and it does also serve to impact lower income communities the worst. The people who are going to be the most vulnerable in society are also radically the most vulnerable digitally. That's not okay, and we can do better. So let's do better.
And that's what we do. Us as YouTubers, as content creators, I believe it's our sole duty to talk about it. A lot of people criticize me for talking about it. And I make videos about it. I go, no fluff, no passes, truth and justice. Damn it, I want my updates. I want it. And people say, well, why you keep complaining about it? It's because, listen, I'm looking out for y'all best interest. Believe me.
Yeah.
Just like this stuff about, and we could talk about this, about Huawei. Huawei. Best Buy just pulled the covers off of Huawei, and they're not going to order from them anymore. And and we know what happened at the at CES when Huawei did the keynote address. I mean, it was flashing all over Twitter that AT&T just pulled the cord, and I mean, the guy was on stage, for Christ's sake, showing off the Mate 10, and we get tweets about Huawei just got yanked from AT&T. I'm like, geez.
Yeah, it got pretty dirty.
That was dirty. But I mean, the Mate 10, and I actually watch Jaime Rivera's review of it, and I don't have it, but he talked about it. He said it's a fantastic phone. Everybody that got the Mate 10 says it's an awesome phone, great cameras, everything. You got the Mate 10. I mean, they say one of the best phones of 2018. But us in the United States would never know, right? Because it's getting yanked. Nobody will support it. I mean, if AT&T don't want to support it,
you can jump through, buying it unlocked,
right?
Various web retailers, but yeah, it's an unfortunate turn of events.
Yeah, but what's going to happen? See, here's the thing: since the United States government trying to ban Huawei in the United States, is the carriers going to make a decision not to block the IMEI numbers, so you won't be able to put it on the U.S. network like they did with the Galaxy Note 7?
That's a great point that I actually hadn't considered, is whether or not we'll see more aggressive tactics at preventing these things from actually making it on the networks. I think in the short term, it would be difficult for companies to blacklist products. Actually, you know what? It might not be. I mean, like if we had regulatory agencies that were actually doing their jobs, then I would say, an FCC would probably get involved in unfair and uncompetitive business practices. And you could probably also make a play with the FTC, so long as it wasn't already a part of your terms of service. Again, the FTC is largely toothless in the digital space, because all an AT&T or Verizon would have to do is put in their terms of service, and we reserve the right to block any device that we feel like, and then the FTC can't do anything. But the FCC would still be able to get involved. Unfortunately, we have an FCC that's not doing its job. It's, we want to talk about regulatory capture. That is one regulatory agency that's absolutely been co-opted by the very companies that they're tasked with trying to rein in. Although I still don't feel that the way that the unlocked market works, that a carrier would be easily able to design a system and incorporate it into their network that could prevent people from operating a brand of devices that have already been cleared for things like, radio management, and not potentially disrupt other consumers who are already using devices in good faith. Like, I think you would stand to disrupt people that were already participating in the carrier network. And then there would probably be a one news cycle story about, you're breaking this because of what? What evidence do you have to break this? And that's actually been the biggest problem with this Huawei story. If there is an actual security issue facing consumers, not network infrastructure engineers and data centers, but consumers, regarding the consumer electronics arm of Huawei, then we want to know about it. Because we're the people who are going to share that information with other consumers. There has been no evidence that I've seen disclosed that would make me feel that there's an actual threat there, more than any other service. I mean, we were joking about it. OnePlus major data breaches, not only uploading personally identifiable information from their phones, also having a major credit card breach in their payment systems. Where's the law enforcement advisory about OnePlus? They're a Chinese company, or Chinese-backed company. Why did we draw the line there? Well, it's because Huawei and ZTE provide network infrastructure, and United States is concerned about 5G deployment. Okay, that has almost nothing to do with Huawei phones.
Exactly, right. And you know what? One of the biggest things that I'm thinking is, that when you're looking at it as good as I got the Mate 9, this absolutely gorgeous device. Very functional device. I got all the Huawei Honor phones, from the Honor 6X, the Honor. I mean, those devices are great. Good body style, runs good. very good cameras. And all of a sudden now with the Mate 10 can stand to be one of the best phones out there that the consumer would never put their hands on because or with all this garbage and trash on the internet that nobody's not going to take that risk and buy a Mate 10. Especially, think about it. I mean, I actually asked a lot of regular consumers, would you spend $700-800+ would you walk into a Best Buy and see a Mate 10 and pay $800+ for that device, or walk to the mobile division right there and put $100 down and get a Samsung Galaxy S9? Right. So I mean that's the biggest point of why people wouldn't buy a Mate 10. It's because in the United States, it's very difficult to shell out almost $1,000 up front for a phone, unless you're a techie. But the average consumer, it's very difficult for average consumers to say, oh, I don't know anything about Huawei, but I want to buy a Mate 10. And all of a sudden, I mean, that's the point. There is no advertisement, no marketing, no nothing. It's left up to the average consumer to make that decision to drop almost $1,000 on an unknown product.
But this is also what's sort of insidious about the entire wireless industry in North America is you're still going to pay $1,000 when you buy that Galaxy. We've carved up the costs, but that's still money you're spending.
Yeah.
And we made it easier for you to spend a lot of money on a phone, but we're starting to, I don't want to use a word like fleece, but we're starting to skin sheep instead of shearing them.
Yeah.
And this is also coming at the worst possible time, I think, for consumer psychology, where the smartphone is a commodity.
Yeah.
It's not an exciting lifestyle defining gadget like it was when we really started getting consumer friendly smartphones, and iPhones were a status symbol. But these companies are also having to generate revenue and growth. And so that's a bad combination to be in. You know, I've gotten to play with the Galaxy S9. I didn't really feel a burning desire to pick one up for my own personal coverage. There are some other things that I kind of want to work on in terms of content production videos and like tutorials and some other just various reviews outside of the phone industry. But from what little time I've spent with the Galaxy S9, it's a great refinement on the Galaxy S8, and it still doesn't feel substantially different from the things that I liked about the Galaxy S7.
Yeah.
You know, I like to see improvements, and we are seeing some great refinement.
Yeah.
But if I were nearing the end of my 2-year cycle on a Galaxy S7, I don't know that I would feel that the Galaxy S9 was such a substantial improvement. I think the screen would be impressive, but it doesn't necessarily fundamentally change the interaction that I have with a mobile device. No 2:1 aspect ratio display changes the touch square, get app, block face from rest of the world. The evolution of, you know, having a phone that you see everyone kind of doing this thing and choking on their own gizzard. That's still the same. Like, that hasn't changed. So what I want to see is something actually disruptive to this market, and it's going to take us a little while to get there, because right now everything has to be so safe. So much money is being generated by phones. No one should be taking any risks right now.
And you know what? One of the biggest things that I'm seeing, I'm down in Louisiana. In Louisiana, it's all iPhone. I mean, everybody has an iPhone because it's simple. Listen, all going through all that crap with Android and should I get a Galaxy? Should I get this or should I get that? You know what? Just give me an iPhone. It's just that easy. Get up. I normally get my updates. You got a plethora of accessories. When you're walking, when you get in your car, they got the car thing already. Noticing that you got an iPhone, and you got everything that Apple has an ecosystem, especially down in Louisiana. And I ask a lot of people, I pull out my Galaxy phone or I pull out an unknown phone. Like, I pull out an unknown phone like this, right? And people say, what the hell is that? I said, that's a BlackBerry. Like, what is that?
So 2 amazing experiences rocking my BlackBerry. I did a local news piece here, one of the LA morning shows. They actually let me talk about phones other than iPhones. And the anchors on the news anchors flipped the, can I swear?
Yeah.
They flipped the fuck out. I've never seen so many like insanely gorgeous people in their late 40s and early 50s, all like primed and propered up for news broadcasts. Like, oh my God, and the keyboard. I remember do you remember BlackBerry? Oh, go call John over here. He's got a seat. And like, you went nuts. But I was going to the my daughter's pediatrician. I was just wrapping up a checkup, and one of the doctors in the elevator, just riding up down, whips out the BlackBerry Key 1, and we nerded out for like 5 minutes about how great that phone was. That guy just like that phone had totally changed his work relationship. And again, like there are reasons. 2017 was such a great year for specialist phones.
Yeah.
You know, like V30 is not a good all-rounder. I do not recommend the V30 for someone who just wants to cover the basics in a really expensive shell. Right. If you're a content producer, that phone is baller. That phone is epic. Same thing, like Huawei and camera tech. I love the aesthetic that comes off of a Huawei camera, and that camera is not easy to use when you first pick it up. It's not. It has a really steep learning curve, and I think a lot of people who are doing early reviews on Huawei, they don't get to fully appreciate what it's capable of until you spend some time doing your homework on it, which is never very fun. And Key 1 was another amazing example of that is the best productivity phone communication device you can own. It's terrible for gaming. It's no fun for multimedia content. But when you need to focus on getting stuff done and communicating with team members and sending out messages and having decent software backing you up with encryption and security standards that are corporate level, there is no better device than that. And then you add 2-day battery life to the mix.
Oh yeah. Ooh, I tell you what, I bang. Shout out to Tech Valor, aka Catwoman. Just gave us a super chat. Super chat is wide open. Yes, so super chat is wide open, and I want to say what's up to everybody that's watching the stream. I got Juan Bagnell in the building, and we just been talking tech, and news and going through everything. But I do want to acknowledge that all my people that's watching the stream, what's up with you? Welcome to another episode of Saturday Night Tech Talk. See, I do this for a long time, and I was like, man, I remember when I first started doing streams. And I had one person watching me. And then I had 0 people. Then they come up to 1 and 0. Then people started giving me like thumbs down, like, who the hell is this guy? Then I was streaming. I was streaming like I had a whole crowd of people. I just kept streaming. I was like, wow. Then all of a sudden now, you know, the channel grew and it's been fun. And I can tell you that, like, when we talk about the BlackBerry Key 1, I love the device, but I got some snippets with that device that I hope with the next iteration with the BlackBerry Key 1 they will fix. First of all, they got to put a better processor in it. Now the 625 is good, but
I disagree. But we can get to that.
Okay, the 625 is good, but when I use it very heavily. And I'm going through multitasking because I do a lot of typing, Word, PowerPoint. Well, not PowerPoint too much, but Word heavily Word. And then when I'm switching and I'm trying to, hold and I try to, copy and paste, I do get that creeping. And I got the 3 gigs of RAM version, and I get that creepiness every now and then. And I found myself when I'm typing a lot. When I get to the numbers part, I have to train myself on how to hold the alt button and stuff like that. It's a learning curve. It's a learning curve. I think I just think that, 800 processor, just give it just a little more oomph, because I found myself working it hard that I am seeing some slowdowns and some hiccups, especially with multitasking.
Here's why I mean, I agree with the sentiment, but what I disagree with is disrupting the focus from what that phone is trying to accomplish. And what that phone is trying to accomplish is a return to some of the efficiency of BlackBerry devices past. I don't know that you could cost effectively make a BlackBerry in the form factor that they're at, because this is already a fairly large phone considering screen size, especially, where you'd also be able to pack in enough battery to try and hit that 2.5-day casual use.
Yes.
that's why I actually really do hope that we see on the Key 2 that they stick with the 630, not even moving up to the 660, because the 660 is like Qualcomm 820 level performance.
Yeah.
But I think it's still going to come with too much of a battery hit for what it is that they're trying to accomplish with runtime.
Okay.
When we're talking about a communications device, it is not going to be a heavy multitasker. That chipset
Right.
really isn't built around it. It's a focus on one brief interaction, get this message out, get back to doing what you need to do.
Yeah.
That's the focus of the phone. And again, I think this is also on TCL and BlackBerry to explain that. They need to re-educate customers what it is that this brand represents.
Yeah.
This is never going to be a gaming platform. This is never
No.
going to be a multimedia platform. That's fine. But they also still do need to have that conversation where if you're one of these people that is super hyperactively multitasking, then it's also probably not going to be a good fit for you either.
Right.
But when you're in the middle of like an intense text chat, you know, you're
Yeah.
constantly passing messages back and forth. You know, you're doing that businessy grade document editing, and you want to have better hardware, that kind of a thing. I think the Qualcomm 630 still represents the best balance of compromises for who the target is on that. It's just that that's a niche target. And as
Right.
long as they're honest about what that is, then I think everyone's going to be happy. But again, like I'm riding in the elevator with the doctor. Like that doctor couldn't have cared at all about what you're describing when it comes to like aggressive multitasking.
Right.
But that's not what he's doing. He's got a proprietary app that's mostly built for hospital communications, and
Right.
he's got a killer keyboard that not only allows him to type in that app very efficiently, you know, in that tactile response where
Mhm.
you're not having to look at the screen, but also set up shortcuts so that he can
Right.
very easily get to contact information to contact whoever he needs to contact, or open up that proprietary app through a shortcut where he never even has to look at the screen. The app is up as he's pulling the phone up to his face to do exactly the communication that he needs. That's the benefit of the Key 1. But, you know, it can't all be on us
Oh.
YouTubers to explain that. The company also has to show a little faith,
But,
you know.
and I think, look, to me, here's what I like about the Key 1, and I love the typing experience. I mean, I can't put the phone down. That's how much I like the
Yeah.
Key 1, right? Here's what I want, because this is something that's gonna bring the Key 1 to the next level. Huawei did it by having the DeX type command. If it's going to be an all around business device,
Mhm.
then it needs to have some type of proprietary something as far as hooking up a mouse and keyboard real quick and plug up HDMI via HDMI to a monitor or a TV like a DeX. Because DeX to me, it's amazing that what DeX does, right? I made plenty of
Yes.
videos about DeX, and I use DeX at all of my locations. I don't even use a PC anymore at my business, right? So I just plug up DeX. I do my spreadsheets. I do my all my accounting. I do everything with a larger platform. Or when I go out of town, I bring my DeX with me and I plug it in to the hotel monitor. I have a larger canvas with a foldable keyboard, real quick, and type up what I need to type up. My voiceovers. Right. Everything. If I'm not bringing my iPad Pro with me, I usually bring DeX in my Galaxy, and I'm good to go. That's what I like. That's what I think BlackBerry need to think about, because if you want to be a business minded, I think that the DeX iteration.
Now, because I totally feel you on that. But
Yeah.
where do we hope that the future of Android is going to go? Do we hope that Samsung can put on more proprietary software that is going to slow down the overall Android experience? Or do we hope that Google is going to give us an Android that's more intelligently able to recognize different screen dimensions?
Yeah.
And then we don't have to worry about BlackBerry coding up a whole bunch of stuff. You can just plug in a USB cable, Huawei style, and have it work directly. Like, if you're really a business on the go traveler and you've got your BlackBerry Key 1, are you going to want cables and docks and adapters and dongles and things? Or do you want to just have like a TV, you know, you just plug it into a TV and have it show up on the TV as an interactive space? I kind of feel like, because you're not wrong, that's a feature I want on a BlackBerry, and being able to move to a larger workspace on the Key 1. But I don't necessarily think I want that solution to come from BlackBerry. I want Google to get after business concerns
Yeah.
And if Google's getting after business concerns, and I think, like, hey, everything gets
Well,
better for everybody, regardless of whether or not you've got a business grade device or a consumer flavor
well,
device.
Google plan for business people is it's a pay $1,000 for a Chromebook. That's Google thinking. If you want to, pay $1,000 for a Chromebook, that's their plan. And we're gonna give you an i7 processor with 16 gigs of RAM. And that's not the $1,000 one though. That's gonna be the $1,500 one. And I'm saying to myself, a Chromebook, boof.
Yeah. And I mean, like, in the Chromebook situation has gotten a little bit better with apps. I mean, like, the thing about like mobile software, I think Apple was just too early in calling an iPad a Pro.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because the infrastructure and the software really wasn't quite there yet. But again, we talked about this on Newegg. If you guys catch the last Newegg Now broadcast we did last Thursday, what you can do, depending on what your profession is, what we want to call a professional device, but what you can currently do with mobile apps and services is pretty formidable. Yeah. And I do believe that for most industries, there's a good faith argument for leaving the laptop at home.
Yeah.
It's just, I want to see more focus from Google. Like, I don't feel that there's this burning need to have two separate software OS ecosystems where one is essentially a web browser, but it can kind of use Android apps. And the other one is a phone operating system, which really could use a better browser, like an actual desktop grade browser. Not that you would ever have enough RAM in your phone to properly run Chrome. But it'd be nice to have something that better approximates that. And so you combine all those things, and then you look at what Microsoft is doing. Running Windows 10 on ARM chipsets is a pretty clear shot at what Google's trying to accomplish with this split focus between Chrome and Android. Yeah. That's why I really believe like a fuchsia style merging can't get here fast enough.
Fast enough, right? And I think, look, here's the thing. We go back to the software updates. If Android P, which is probably going to get announced in September, and the next iteration of the Google phone is going to have the, Android 9 or whatever it's going to be called, right? But what's Android is oh my God, it's all over the place. I mean, they got phones that still run Android 6, Android. Android. Where we at 9, 8? I don't know where we at.
Well, we're on Oreo. Yeah, we're
on Oreo. And we got phones that still running 2-year-old software. Phones coming out in 2018. Some of them is not even running Oreo, and it's just madness right now. And especially with these heavy skins, that's the point. The heavy skins on top of Android is the one that's just killing us right now. And could we actually say that the Galaxy S9 is outdated because isn't Android 8.2 is out right now or something? So
well, again, we wouldn't say outdated, but like it's current. So I mean, let's be fair. Like it's current, and that's what was exciting. Like when I got my my Xperia XZ1 Compact, that was such a screamer phone.
Yeah.
It was one of the first non-pixel devices to come with Oreo, Qualcomm 835 chipset, a lower resolution screen. It's only a 720p display. Like that thing flew. That was the fast, and Sony has finally backed off of a lot of the more extreme skinning of their devices. So it was a really lean software edition on top of that. That was an incredible one thumb phone experience. To really abbreviate the lifestyle of, I got a notification, I pull the phone out of my pocket, can do everything on like my little hobbit hands, can do everything with one hand, not have to stop what I'm doing to put both hands on a device and occupy my visual and tactile attention with this one gadget, and then get back on with my life. It was so clean, it was so smooth. And so, now Samsung has their Samsung experience running on top of Android 8 or 8.1 with a Qualcomm 845.
Right.
And do we believe that we're going to get Android 9 before the Galaxy S10 is out?
Probably not.
And I think a lot of us are probably, you know, reluctant to say that you know, that's what we're going to see, and that's a bummer, because we shouldn't have to have that conversation with a name brand like Samsung.
And you know what? Same thing with Apple. I mean, every time we find something with Apple, I mean, people slam them. Ooh, Lord. Ooh, I see so many people just slam. Every time Apple has something that happened, a bug or something happened, or somebody that bust the operating system wide open and exploded and stuff like that, people go crazy. Oh, see, I told y'all. Didn't I tell y'all Apple ain't what it used to be? And so, I see it a lot. I've been seeing a lot of YouTubers making videos about that. I told you Apple suck. Didn't I tell you Apple suck? And I don't know. I mean, what is the direction of Apple going into right now? We got this event coming out Tuesday, right? Which is the educational event. We heard that we're going to see new iPads, cheaper iPads, possibly with pencil support, which is great for the kids. Probably some new software. We're not going to see any Macs. We've heard that rumor that we're not going to see any Macs. So what is Apple going to bring to the table this week to kind of get to educate? Because I mean, Chromebooks is taking over the educational field right now.
It's doing really well there.
And so Apple trying to divvy up some of that market share. You think a cheaper iPad with pencil support and educational software included, you think that will bring in some of that educational support?
Well, it's actually something I hope they do. Just like as in the consumer market, I feel there should be some good faith arguments for competition in the education market, because we saw the first iPad initiative here in Los Angeles crash and burn bad. Like it was a very expensive blunder of catastrophic proportions. So I'm not very confident on a few of the weaker rumors that there could maybe be a lower cost MacBook. I really do feel that, especially with Apple's current bread and butter, so much of their money being made from iOS, now's the right time to look at a regular iPad that just has stylus support. And we'll be playing fast and loose. Like, why do we call one product a pro and another product is not a pro? Apple hasn't had a good argument for a while. They just haven't. They've been sort of refining and reducing their product lines, and that focus actually benefits them from a financial perspective. It just makes the conversation a little less exciting for us enthusiasts. But I am kind of hoping we'll see something in that space where they can make the right argument beyond just their dumb commercial of the little girl who's, what's a computer? Beyond that, I want to see them join this, because having a three-way competition between low-cost Windows 10 hardware on mobile chipsets, Chrome hardware on mobile chipsets, and Apple with A-series processors, that's a good fight. That's a really interesting fight. I think Microsoft totally wins for the more flexible, modular tablet or laptop experience. Chrome, I think, is still probably the best education-focused software platform for people to administer what kids can and can't do on those devices. It's just way too easy to gut Windows 10, and Apple won't let anyone into the operating system.
Right.
So it's, you can't rein in what kids. I mean, that was a big problem we had here in Los Angeles, is they tried to have this protection lock and teachers versus kids. You can imagine who won that fight and who won it fast. And so having Apple properly rejoin this space in earnest only makes sense to give us the best possible outcome, the best possible product. And I also hope it just kind of helps further the conversation on other services, other educational opportunities that we can get more students, especially students in middle and lower income areas, exposed to STEM concepts. Can you make an app for iOS on your iOS device? Go. Can you code for Windows on Windows? What does it take? What can you accomplish? What can you do? Those kinds of opportunities are going to be furthered by having a rich and diverse ecosystem of products for educators to draw from.
So, I mean, when we talk about, this new possible iPad, we're hearing price rumors between the $300 price point and $350 price point. Don't we have an iPad currently That's the $329 price point. So if Apple already have an iPad, because if I'm not mistaken, they came out with an iPad last year that was a $329 price point. What this iPad is going to bring to the table that's going to cost that same amount of money that you can't buy last year's iPad. If I'm not mistaken, I think because iPad got three type of generations of iPads. You got the iPad Pro, then you have the iPad,
Right.
then you have the iPad Pro, the big one, the big TV screen. But so then they cut the mini line. All right, the iPad Mini is gone because the iPad Mini 3 was the last iteration of the iPad, which I like. I really like the iPad Mini.
Well, let me posit this to you then. What so let's say we were to take the regular iPad, which you were right, it retails for $329, base model storage 32 gig. And what if we, for education, not for general consumers, like you would have to bulk order these and deploy them in schools. What if we delivered a $299.99 32 gigabyte iPad with a digitizer for the pencil, and we rolled that with the pencil, and we sold that to educators?
Wow, that
like, wouldn't that be a huge, and you wouldn't have to change, Apple A9 processor, 32 gigabytes of storage. What is it? It's 2 or 3 gigabytes of RAM.
Right.
We're not stepping up into the pro specs. We're safely below the pro specs for people that are going to get their panties all twisted up because, I paid all this money for a pro and then you just give it to kids for like half the price. But if we did all that, wouldn't that be a baller, compelling option against a $199 Chromebook or a $299 Windows ARM PC? That to me would be a huge shot against the competing industry right now. Now, I don't believe Apple's going to do that. I think what we'll probably end up is something that's a little bit more of a compromise, maybe slightly beefier specs, an A10, 32 gigabytes of storage, and it has pencil support, but you don't get the pencil. We'll sell schools the pencil for cheap. So you end up with really like a $400 iPad, but it's still better than what they have access to today. And it's progress, but not really, because they've got to keep their profit margins padded.
And that's right. I mean, so if Apple does that, right, even though they already have a $329 iPad, if they do that out, would they really be shooting themselves in the foot? I mean, they come up with a $400 iPad for educational with a digitizer and pencil support, but they don't ship the pencil, which they probably won't do.
I don't think.
And so now you got to spend, say, $50. Let's say half price, $50 for the pencil. So you got $399 plus $50. Now you're almost at the $500 price point. How in the world schools are going to buy 10,000 of these things at a $550 price point?
Well, and again, it's balancing the expectations of shareholders and the branding and imaging of Apple.
Yeah,
Apple has historically not played well in the mid-range and low-end hardware ecosystems. So if they're making this educational push, unfortunately, I think they'd probably be looking at, to keep the Apple brand pristine, would be going after more affluent communities.
Ooh, wow.
And that's fine, because you know what? The rest of us are rocking Windows and Google and doing just fine. That to me, I think could be one potential outcome if we see that price point. That's also what's so difficult about having this conversation about Apple, is because we have to speculate. It's such a wide open territory. There's so many opportunities and so many potential missteps for a company to come with this kind of branding. But we're also talking about subsidizing the fight for the future.
Right.
And if kids come up in school with this notion of Apple as a luxury brand way out there, but they did all of their work coming up on Windows or Chrome. Yeah, sure, some of them are going to convert when they start making some money, but not all of them.
Not all of them, right.
And a lot of them are going to stick with what they're familiar. They're going to stick with what they know.
Right.
This could be the time. $299, throw in a pencil, give me an Apple A9, give me 32 gigabytes of storage. Don't go crazy on the actual specs, because it's an iPad. It's going to be fine.
Right.
But you're subsidizing the education of future consumers.
Right.
Then be trained in your ecosystem on your products and will become heavy users and subscribers to your services when they have their own money to spend on these products.
I hope
That to me would be the smartest business play, looking long term, that you take some hits on what profit margin you would build into this stuff today, which
yes.
I can't believe if they had manufacturing lines and chip fab on A9 processors,
Right.
that
It should
this
be no
last
problem.
gasp of it shouldn't be tremendously expensive.
Right.
In fact, they'd probably eat more of the profit margin on something like the pencil than on the
Right.
iPad. But that to me would make a lot of sense in the goodwill of having all of the positive press, all of the buzz surrounding an aggressively disruptive move like that. And
well,
then
they
from
need
there,
it right now.
well, but then right there, you would have all of the additional accessories purchases. You would have the schools like chargers and cables that you know are going to die after 6 months. So you have to buy more
Right.
cables. The cases and covers and everything else. I truly believe Apple could make up the discrepancy in their profits on that by seeding that out. That's what Bill Gates did with Windows.
Right.
You know, throwing schools all of this PC hardware, knowing, well, it's going to be Windows.
Right. And you know what? The thing about it is they're gonna tax you on Apple Care. See, there's some money gonna be made all the way around. They're gonna get your Apple Care.
And
I mean, there's
support on the back
enterprise
end.
support, right? Enterprise support. So you're talking about then if it's going to be educational software, it's probably going to be a monthly charge for storage and stuff like that as far as enterprise support.
You need your iCloud account.
Right. You know? So it's going to make money on the back end. It may not make money as far as the hardware, but the accessories and the support and everything. Look,
but this has also been the great success of Apple as a company, is they've never put out a product where they had to worry about profit on the back end.
Right.
Everything Apple does is fuck you, pay me up front.
Yeah.
That's why Apple is such a desirable company to invest in. Not a single product of theirs is subsidized. You
right.
pay up
front. That's right. That's how Apple roll.
And look, in the bank.
Speaking of Apple, we hearing that we're going to get a iPhone SE2 that's looking like an iPhone 10.
I hope so much. The SE is still my favorite iPhone of all the current phones. I like iOS. I do not believe iOS has evolved well to larger screen sizes.
Yeah.
Apple wasn't wrong when they had those dopey commercials. Well, your thumb goes from here to here, you know, like, and again, I'm coming at this like I make jokes about my Hobbit hands. My hands are like painfully average, but I do have one really stumpy thumb. My right thumb is much shorter than my other thumb. But even on my regular thumb hand, the iPhone SE is just such a wonderful, brief, get to the point interaction. Again, terrible for multimedia, terrible for gaming, blah, 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 blah. But it just so focuses, it just so gets you into the one interaction you want to accomplish and then get right back out again. And iOS is such a dream because it originally came up on screens of that general size.
Yes.
And look at all of the hoops that we've had to jump through and different settings that they've had to include as the screens have gotten larger.
Yeah.
Just to sort of apologize for the larger screen. I don't think they ever really embraced larger screen design like Samsung did.
Mm-hmm.
Like Samsung gave us reasons why both hands should be occupied on a Note. Right. Samsung gave us good reasons why certain types of screen shrinking tech should be employed on an S Plus size. I don't think Apple's made the same commitment to having different form factors of devices. So an SE2, and I would love this, like just expanding the borders on the original SE, not having a camera bulge on the back, which is ugly design. I don't like having that big old knob on the back of like an iPhone 8. But just sort of expanding the screen, keeping a reasonably sized battery in there, which Apple won't. But minimizing that form factor, again, just the less expensive, still in the ecosystem, don't have to give up on your apps, but I'm not sitting there playing games all day. I'm not Snapchatting all day. You know, it's exactly like when Kia has dancing electronica hamsters to market a youth mobile. But
Right.
then when you see people really buying that car, it's usually like senior citizens because it's an inexpensive vehicle that they just need to tool around in, and it's practical, and it's got like a hatchback so they can fit all their groceries in the back. Like, kids don't want the Kia that the dancing electronic hamsters were advertising. They want like a Mercedes or a BMW.
Right.
So an SE2, I mean, you can make yeah, it's like the cheap iPhone you can get for your kids. But then I know so many like aunts, uncles, grandparents that love not having to give up on their iPhone 5 era.
Right.
iPhones. They want that. They just want that with reasonably up-to-date components and internals.
You think Apple's going to alienate when you talk about the older generation? Do you think Apple's going to alienate them by getting rid of the home button? Because one of the things that my parents love is the home button. They would not go for iPhone 10 because of the gestures and all that stuff like that. And we hearing rumors, it's speculation and rumors. There's a possibility that Apple is going, even with the newer iPads, they're going to come with the notch. They get rid of the home button. No touch ID, none of that stuff. They're going to go strictly, focus on gestures and stuff like that. Do you think that's going to alienate the older generation, especially when people love that home button? That home button is so convenient. Just press that button.
Like this is a tricky spot for Apple to be in.
Yeah.
I have some corporate compassion for the situation that they're in because they're victims of their own success. Yeah. Apple did an incredible job of educating consumers, not business people, not techs, not engineers, but consumers to the benefits of mobile technology, of having a computer that could live in your pocket, as one of the great successes of their company, and deservedly why the iPhone is the continued juggernaut that it is. I do believe they deserve the accolades that they receive there. I don't believe they're particularly innovative as a company, but who did they go after at a time when Windows Mobile and Palm OS and BlackBerry were only going after like business people? Apple went after consumers, so they deserved the win there. So they did such a good job of training consumers. Any change is very difficult for a good chunk, not a majority, but a statistically significant chunk of your user base to weather. They don't want to have to relearn what to do with their phones. And this is one of the things that I think Samsung still has a big problem with, is change for change's sake.
Yeah.
It really bothers me going from a Galaxy S7 to a Galaxy S8 when you look at the changes made to the camera app. The Galaxy S7 camera app is nearly perfect. I mean, like, if they were just to add shutter speed control to video, it would be a formidable competitor to a phone like the LG V30 for high-end content creators, while not abandoning general consumers like LG does, because the auto mode on an LG is mediocre.
It's terrible.
I can get some good results out of it, but again, I have to work it. It's not awful, but it's like awful adjacent, right? Yeah. So why did we make the changes from the S7 to the S8, which didn't really improve the situation, put frivolity way more in our face that you have to get around like stickers and Bixby, and that clutters the experience, when we also had the longer screen, which is mostly just full of empty space in the I mean, like, why have no bezels if you're just then going to have empty swaths of space with zero functionality, and then still clutter the display with crap that you don't need? So change for change's sake is bad. I mean, there's a reason why people claim the iPhone camera is so superior. It's not because it's intuitive. The iPhone camera app is horrifically unintuitive software, but it also hasn't changed in 9 years. 9 years, you get really good at something. You shoot Canon hardware for 9 years. Are you going to switch to a Nikon and have to relearn where all the buttons are? No, that's madness. I mean, even just in handling the camera bodies. I mean, I have the whole conversation about. So I mean, in the short story, incredibly long. Missing the point. Getting back to the point. In talking about like changing up the home button, Apple still benefits from the momentum of people that are bought into the ecosystem. So you get rid of a home button on an iPad, and that's gonna bother my grandmother, but she
Yeah.
will, even through her frustration, she will take the time to relearn, because the iPad has afforded her so much better communications ability than any Microsoft product had before she had gotten her iPad. So you deal with it. But we had this great interview with a rep from AARP, and he brought up some really great points that, like, senior citizens are increasingly tech savvier than the generations that came before them, and they're
Mhm.
increasingly more curious about what these products can afford them. You start talking about mobility problems and lifestyle problems, communications problems later in health, when you might not be able to talk, or
Right.
to move, to experience life in the same degree, and then all of a sudden you just have this thing in your pocket, which you can video call your grandkids,
Yeah.
so easily. So the problem is, and Apple's facing this right now, and I think the iPhone 10 is an excellent example of some things that can go well and some things that go very, very poorly. When you have to change some stuff and you make an arbitrary decision like getting rid of the home button because you're trying to achieve the screen to body ratio, I think you
Mhm.
focused on the wrong
Yeah.
benefit. You've changed something ergonomically, which was well understood and which was well experienced and is muscle memory for Android users, right?
Right.
Like, you let's say you're a diehard LG, HTC, Samsung fan. You still know how to use an iPhone just through the osmosis of being
Right.
surrounded by people that have iPhones. It is going to be critically frustrating for a good chunk of consumers out there to relearn what they already know, because then you're not organically going to the service that you want to use. You had to stop and think about, just for a second, what the change was to then go to the thing that you wanted to use. And it's the
So
same thing,
you
like
right. So
what
you
bothered me about Samsung's camera is exactly that same problem. I
right.
got really good at using the S7, and the first week I had the S8, I had to relearn just those muscle memory things on why that camera did different things than the camera before it. And
Right.
that's bad. We
Right.
ultimately have to say that's bad software design.
Right. Don't you think that when Apple is attempted to do this, right? We hearing
Mm.
again the reports that Apple's going to go all out without a home button in 2018. You think they're prepared to take this hit because they're going to take this PR hit. They're going to take this hit. This if they do it in 2018, I think they got to do a hell of a lot of freaking marketing. I mean, a whole lot of marketing, and the Apple stores got to be full up with people because if you go to Apple Store, I mean, it's full up with people trying to do this, do that, and they have these seminars where they got to train people and teach people on how to use iOS devices. I
Mm.
think that Apple, if they're going to do this year, that they're going to go on and take the shit storm all the way through the end
So
of 2018.
I think the thing from like Apple's perspective, and again, it's hard to unravel this because Apple stays so tight-lipped, and I bet there's
Yeah,
probably a lot of debate internal at
yeah,
Apple. We won't really have an answer on this until we see what the next big little iPhone is.
yeah,
Because it's pretty clear the iPhone 10 sold well.
yeah,
Anyone who says the iPhone 10 didn't sell well is an idiot. But
yeah,
it didn't eclipse the iPhone 8s. So Apple's strategy of the $1,000 phone, they can now backpedal. And this is all just branding and marketing. This is like, to your point right there. It's all just a labeling exercise. Anyone who was like pissed off that the iPhone 8 was called the 8 and not an iPhone 7S, like, these names don't
yeah.
mean anything. They're just labels to put on the side of the box. They're just stickers. You're mad about a sticker. So the iPhone 9, I've been calling it in my brain, the iPhone 9 is the follow-up to the iPhone 8 and having a little version and a big version. It's essentially also what would have been an iPhone 11 if the iPhone 10 had outsold the iPhone 8, then we would be calling it an iPhone X2 or an iPhone XI or something like that. And it's just a different label. It would have been
Yeah.
exactly the same product. But I think there's probably a stronger contingent at the top of Apple that they need to eat these hits now
Now, right.
so that they can start transitioning and moving on to this product. It doesn't make sense for them to string out what changes they do have. because again, the iPhone hasn't changed substantially in overall hardware
Right.
since its launch.
Right.
So Apple loves to do this as a tectonic shift, you know, pressure, 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 break. And
Yeah.
then a major change
Yeah.
happens with some type of software or some type of hardware design.
Yeah.
So because they already started that tectonic break with the iPhone 10, I think there's probably a significant amount of momentum internally at Apple to say, finish it. And this is the new way that iPhones work.
Right.
And consumers will have the iPhone 8 for a whole other year with reasonably current hardware if they really feel that passionate about the home button. And then everyone else will just get on with their lives because they're not going to go over to Android and rebuy all of their apps and movies and music.
Right.
So we got
But
them, we own them, and they'll eventually just complain and moan themselves into compliance.
but you think that Apple is one of the biggest reasons why Apple really want to do this is because right now they're making two operating systems, right? They got one for touch gestures, which is the
Yes.
iPhone 10. That's a complete different operating system.
Yeah.
And they have one for the iPhone 8 and all the legacy devices.
That's exactly it. It's you don't want to have to continue supporting multiple aesthetics, multiple philosophy of how these products should be used. So you take the bad hit and you move people on and you get on with your life. And I mean, again, there are probably far smarter number crunchers than I on the potential fallout. But I'm sure there are people whose sole job it is within Apple is to try and predict consumer behavior. And they've probably got algorithms and metrics down to billionths of a decimal point to say, this is the fallout. We're going to lose Bob in Cincinnati, but then we're also going to pick up, you know, Joe, Frank, and Evan. So for every Bob we lose, we'll win 3 others, and that's fine. You know, like it's something for us to get really worked up about and for us to get really frustrated about, because I think their execution is not great. I don't like tiny, skinny, tall screens that have bottom chin swiping gestures for something as regularly trafficked as going home.
Yeah.
And with the Taptic Engine, there was a beautiful metaphor that they could have employed in pressing into the screen to take you back home. I don't love Samsung's implementation of it either, but if any company could have improved on it, it should have been Apple. Apple's whole MO has been polishing up other companies' raw technology. So why not also polish up a fairly raw, not quite as well polished metaphor for going home as pressing into the screen on a Galaxy S8 or Galaxy S9?
Yeah, and that's the whole thing, and I think now we going into a different era. Everybody wants the fingerprint scanner on the display. Oh my God, everybody's saying, "Oh, we need that technology. We need the fingerprint scanner on the display." And so I think that's going to happen. I think that we hear rumors that the Galaxy Note 9 will probably have a fingerprint scanner on the display. Because if this other device came out and everybody like, why did Samsung couldn't do it first? And why didn't Apple do it first? And why this unknown brand just come to CES and got a fingerprint scanner underneath the glass? What's going on here? What's the problem, Samsung? You got to be the first. And we already know Apple is 2 years behind. So Samsung should have been the first, just like the Galaxy X, right? We hearing the foldable display.
But this is also the thing, though, man. This is like one of the reasons why I'm happy Samsung isn't. Is I think Samsung has finally grown up as a brand to not just be, we'll do the everything into the kitchen sink shotgun approach to making a gadget with features that most people won't use, and then we'll get rid of them in the next iteration of the phone, or shift to design and tactics until we get something that sticks. Now we have a Samsung that's only iterating, like I said before, it's refinements from Galaxy S7 to Galaxy S9, steady improvements. We have a recognizable brand aesthetic. We have a recognizable form factor. Samsung now has devices that own a segment of the ecosystem where everyone else is going to be accused of being a copycat now. So I'm actually glad that they weren't first, because I think it would have been a garbage implementation to be first. You know, like look at the first generation of iris scanning that they put out. It was functional, but it wasn't great. And every successive generation has been better. So you have to be really careful when you change something that that is a core piece of functionality and is also baked into the core security locking down your phone, payments on your phone, banking information on your phone. You don't want to be first to
Right.
messing around with something like that. You want to be best for
Yeah.
messing around with something like that. So I'm hoping that what they arrive at is an improvement over how we use the fingerprint sensor. If it's too small a target and you just have to sort of muscle memorize where it is on the screen, it's not going to be an improvement over a dedicated fingerprint sensor on the back of a phone.
Right.
That's going to hamper the experience. Again, I mean, just like we've seen in some of the live chat, people commenting about like, oh, I'm totally used to the notch, or I got used to the new gestures.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I'm not saying you can't get used to the gestures. What I'm saying is on $1,000 product, why are you having to readapt to changes for change's sake on a gadget that was very well understood before that point?
Right.
If there is an argument to be made for improving how you go home on an iPhone, great. Well, show me that improvement. But if you made me change my behavior on one generation of product and it's not better, and in some ways could potentially be worse,
yeah,
because of the differences in, I mean, I'm going to demonstrate this on my V30. So pressing into the screen is a down action, which doesn't require moving the phone around from where I've got a docked set of icons on the bottom. Swiping up from the chin increases the likelihood that I'm pushing against how I'm holding the phone.
Yeah.
So you can get used to that, but why did you have to at the price tag of $1,000? That's what I'm saying. So when Samsung does the same thing and changing something as fundamental to the security aspect of a Galaxy phone, I want to know that they're doing this in a way that actually improves the fingerprint scanning experience. And so when we saw the Apex concept at MWC, don't give me the home button sized target to try and find on a featureless piece of glass.
Right.
It's why I hate touchscreens in cars. I want buttons and knobs that I don't have to take my eyes off the road and focus my attention on a touchscreen to interact with. Same thing for a fingerprint sensor. The beauty of a fingerprint sensor as opposed to face unlock is this phone is on when I go to look at it.
Right.
This phone is on before I go to look at it. I'm not wait a fraction of a second to unlock the phone and then still probably have another gesture to unlock. No, I want to use the phone is out of my pocket. I want to use it. Right. I don't want to wait for it, even that fraction of a second. I can get used to the fraction of a second wait. But why do I have to on $1,000
phone? Yeah.
So if Samsung can do something like having a whole, like, a fifth of the bottom of the screen is an active recipient for fingerprint sensing, that is a market improvement over having a singular tiny little target. Right. It doesn't matter what hand, it doesn't matter how you're holding it. You don't have to dance the phone around. You don't have to aim. You don't have to look. If that entire bottom strip of the phone, like that Vivo concept, could be your fingerprint sensing target, that improves on the situation of using a smartphone, especially using a fingerprint sensor. So that to me would be a nice thing to wait for. For the better implementation of that technology.
So is Samsung gonna ever release this Samsung X thing? I mean, we've been hearing this rumor. I've seen this like 4 years ago at a keynote address that they showed the commercial and the guy folded the phone up and put it in his pocket and stuff like that. I mean, is this the year that Samsung is going to release this foldable device, new category called the Galaxy X?
So I hope so, but I hope that we can have a conversation from a major manufacturer about a niche device. Yeah. Like, don't try and convince me that this is going to be the all-rounder best top seller. Make it an expensive phone, make it an enthusiast device, focus in on part of the conversation, and have us understand that what we're also doing is kind of beta testing to a degree. If we're all honest about that, then yeah, I think we can find niche success, and you're priming the audience for future iterations. And the wait and seers will have a group of people that they can interact with that will have more experience using products like that. My big problem is I feel by the time we work out the compromises on a consumer-ready, a mass-scale consumer-ready foldable phone, that foldable phones will be obsolete in the face of augmented reality.
Mm.
I just don't see, especially after using the Axon M, I'm
Yeah.
still not convinced that an expandable phone, a phone that goes from a rectangle, a skinny rectangle, to a mini tablet form
Yeah.
factor, solves any of the major social and etiquette issues that we face using mobile technology today. They come with way more compromises. They're going to
Yeah.
be way more fragile. They're
Yeah.
probably going to have to sacrifice battery life unless they're going to be almost unpocketably thick. All of the things that we say we think we care about in terms of design and fashion get extremely more difficult to deal
Yeah.
with by making pieces that flip or fold or roll out of that.
Yeah.
And they become less durable, they become less practical. And what do we get out of that? Having a little bit of extra screen real estate in your pocket pales in comparison to being able to just connect your phone to a larger display.
Right.
So that's already.
You know, my concept of this whole Galaxy X thing, I talk about this. I say, what? That's your note device, right? You got a S Pen. You can roll it out, however it flips out, and you got a lot more real estate that you can jot down your notes. You got a lot more real estate that you can focus more on the business aspect of it. And then once you finish, you know, doing your annotations and typing, you fold it up, put it in your coat pocket, and you're good to go. Now, I think that would be a finer concept, and it has to be that software entwined, and the Galaxy Note software is excellent. I love the Galaxy Note software. And if it can be implemented in the foldable display, not how Exxon M did it. And you're right. The Exxon M implementation of it is terrible.
So one of the things, I mean, like look at the idea on like a rollable device. Where do you put the battery?
Oof. Yeah.
Because you know, batteries love getting smashed up and squished up, and you know, they're all about modular or redefinable shapes. I'm being facetious. Batteries like to explode when they encounter oxygen. So where do you put the battery, and how do you interact with the current paradigm of touch square get app on what could only be a semi-rigid display? So basically, if it's rollable, the best we could hope for would be like a snap bracelet. You remember those things?
Yeah.
You like whack it on your wrist and it coils itself up.
Yeah.
So you pull this out. How do you use it?
Yeah.
Unless it's down on a flat surface, because even propping it up, if it's down on a flat surface, then you're just, you know, it's only as good as the table that it's on, which is already worse than if you just had a portable display. Right. Like there's a new Asus display that's coming out, battery powered 1080p production grade monitor, that it's really little, super awesome form factor. And it works one cable natively with Android devices to screen mirror. And it's awesome. But it's got its own stand built into it, so you don't have to mess with, you know, like having a screen that can only lay flat. So then if you have this rollable display and you pick it up, how do you use things on it? Because both hands are holding this floppy, foldable, rollable thing. You've just made the worst tablet ever for how you really want to interact or use. We would have to completely change the interaction that we have. We can't have touch square get app. We can't have a keyboard that takes up the whole span. Like you'd only be able to have like half circle thumb keyboards.
Yeah. Oof.
So that you can type that way. There's so many more problems, and we haven't solved the problems that we currently have. We've made those problems worse. So that's why I'm saying is like who is it? Leap Motion put out a demo. Go hit their Twitter feed. They've been putting out demos on consumer hardware powering augmented reality goggles, and they have this one demo where it's all being processed in real time. It's not pre-rendered. Guy holds up his hand, and a little tab series pops out from the side of his hand, and he takes a finger and he slides it over, and menus extend out from his hand.
Wow!
Imagine only having a processor and battery and LTE radio in your pocket, and not having anything physical to have to interact with to being served data and services. That is an order of magnitude better than what we currently interact with a smartphone, and can be as big as you want it to be. Do you want to expand all this information and dock it onto the wall in front of you and have a 70-inch TV for all of your social media and all of your Netflix stuff that you can watch organically that way? Then you can take it off the wall, shrink it back down, put it in the palm of your hand so you can be more discreet and just kind of tap away on things and write with stuff. I mean, that is already a million times better, a million times more practical, way less stuff to break, way less things to figure out. We just have to make AR goggles that don't look terrible, that you'll actually want to put on your face. And then you look at Intel Vaunt, where they've got a laser projection system. So they just look like thick Ray-Ban style frames. And then they just, laser shoot that information into the back of your optic nerve. Want that so bad. That's so much better.
But I mean, I think at the end of the day, this is one of the reasons why the foldable display from Samsung never came out. It's because this is the trouble they're having.
Well, I mean, really think about the lifestyle practicality of that gadget. What has Samsung been building themselves on in terms of durability? Things like water resistance.
Right.
You've got to make hinges and mechanisms on a flexible membrane device that won't crimp the device. Like you can't put a hard seam currently. At least I haven't seen one. And I've been following LG Display on a lot of their transparent and foldable displays too. I haven't seen anything where you can have a hard seam that you can create that tight rectangular edge. You have to have that. You can't make it water resistant very easily.
Right.
And you've made it doubly fragile. It's the same problem I had with the Axon. You drop your Galaxy S9 and the back cracks, that's a bummer. Right. You drop your Axon M, you destroy a screen.
Right.
That's 50% of the functionality of your, supposedly what you paid for in buying that phone. 50% of the functionality of that gadget is gone. So there are so many of these issues that I don't think we solve by over-engineering the hardware in making these things modular and flexible and foldable and everything else. But what I do hope to see is Samsung utilizing this as a test platform. Again, I'm fine if you want to use me as a beta tester, and I understand that this is the relationship we're going to have with a Galaxy X, because out of that, we'll learn a lot about where we can push the envelope on future iterations of other products and services. It's the same thing with smartwatches. Smartwatches are kind of a lame product category right now until we see some more progress on like Wear OS, and other software platforms. But what we hope to learn from that, Wear OS is kind of is doing a terrible job of living up to its name.
Right. Wear OS.
Where's a Wear OS compliant? No, it should be anything you can wear. Right. We've been able to learn from smartwatches to deliver a better version of Google Glass by now. Right. So what services and interactions are people having with their watches that we could move to eye level and abbreviate even this interaction of having to look down at a watch and being rude, like I'm bored with this conversation right now and I'm looking at the time, where was that knowledge? Where is that consumer experience influencing future products? Where's my Wear OS chest strap so that I can have real all-day heart rate information? Like I want a compression gear shirt because a polar strap is way more accurate than a light sensor on your wrist.
That's on your wrist, right?
Right. So why haven't we seen Wear OS influencing fashion and shoes? Why am I wearing a pedometer on my wrist that isn't going to track my steps when I push a shopping cart or I push my daughter's stroller? That's bad design. Yeah. If I think I want to track my steps while I push my daughter's stroller, I've got to take my watch off and attach it to like my hip or my shoe. Why don't my shoes have sensors? Right. Where's my Wear OS add-on to put sensors in my shoes for tracking my steps? Because the thing that I walk with aren't my hands.
Right. That's crazy. I want to give a shout out to BizMiz Tech. He's been dropping $1.99 super chats for the last 30 minutes. And thank you very much. He said, shout out to Juan's background lighting. You talk about how good your lighting is
I like
back there.
that.
You see it a lot of your videos, and yeah, I mean, I get crunk when I say, man, you go very good into detail about a lot of your content, and you do a good job. I mean, I get inspired when I be watching you guys, especially you. You go very, very detailed on a lot of your videos and stuff like that. And I tell you what, we're almost at the top of the hour on our second hour, so we go get on out of here. But I want to give a huge shout out to everybody that joined the stream. Ace,
there's some great conversation going in the last guys, and really appreciate it.
Tech Valor, aka Catwoman. We got Aces in the building. We got the Samsung Knights in the building, by the way. I see all the Samsung Knights in the building. We got Art Dog is in the building. We got Dexter in the building. Let's see, get some shots out here. Let's see. We had TK Total Tech was in the building earlier. And let's see, Vulcan Project is in the building. Very good guy. I watch his YouTube channel. He was on my live stream once or twice, I believe. KB is in the building. 10-minute tech reviews is in the building.
All right.
So we got cafes in the building. We got a lot of YouTubers in the building. So
it's like the best episode of Romper Room ever. And I see Jimmy, and I see Bailey, and I see Bobby, and I see Camden. Hell
yes,
man.
Yeah. So, man, I tell you what, if anybody don't know how to get to your YouTube channel, I'm going to put it. Look, you're probably one of the biggest stars out there, but I'm gonna put you up there anyway, so everybody can please go to Juan.
I mean, like, I'm not that big a deal. I mean, my personal channel is still just plodding along. I think I've got like 60K subscribers, and like you're right behind me, man.
Yeah.
Like, this is what's been exciting about joining these conversations is I've always been a gun for hire on bigger platforms. You know, like, so I got started doing my own reviews, but then I've been producing for other outlets like Pocket Now and now with Newegg.
Yeah.
Again, I like being able to sort of join the right platform for the right conversation.
Yes.
So, you know, it's all about right now, and especially with, you know, seeing such a great chat here, it is all about joining the conversation. Apathy is our biggest enemy. We are the ones that are really passionate about this stuff, and we should have that front seat at the table for leading the debates that we really need to have, because we need to have a lot of grown-up debates about where we want this stuff to go. And we can't have that with well, especially with like the current crop of like lawmakers in this space. They come from a generation where all of this was frivolous, when we know that this is the driving force of the future of our market, the future of our economy. And if we don't take the reins over soon, we're going to be in a bad way when some of these transitions really start hitting. I mean, we had some people talking about concerns over AI, self-driving cars, the recent story of what happened with Uber in Arizona. You know, we shouldn't be letting cable news dictate the tone of those kinds of discussions, because they're not going to do it right. We're going to do it right. And so we're the ones that are going to be able to manage the expectations of the other consumers in our circles of family and friends, but we should also be the ones that are harassing our lawmakers to make sure that they're engaged in good deliberation for the future of law when it comes to these types of situations.
Yes, and at the end of the day, we all, this one of the reasons why I have this platform, and I have what's called Wine Wednesday, but I have the ladies that come on, and they give their perspective about what they believe in a female perspective. And this is why I have this platform, and I really do enjoy doing this. And so much fun we have when we do this. And it's always good to have.
Well, I mean, I get a little soapboxy, but I mean, ultimately, I wouldn't be doing this if it weren't fun to play with gadgets.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's the whole thing. And once again, Juan, I really appreciate you coming to the live stream.
Definitely, man. My pleasure.
We got to hook back up, and we got to get you back on here.
Definitely.
And always about truth and justice, folks. And I hope everybody did get their popcorn, because this was a very good, very, very good stream. And we got a lot of conversation. We got a lot of information out there. And I really do appreciate everybody that come on these streams every Wednesday and every Saturday, as we do Saturday Night Tech Talk and Ladies Night Takeover. And we gonna get on out of here, guys. Make sure you subscribe to my channel. Go to Juan Bagnell channel and subscribe. Watch out our content. Make sure that y'all feel comfortable right at home right here every Saturday night. And I do want to give a huge shout out to everybody that gave super chats. That helps out the channel a whole lot, because getting these gadgets and doing all this stuff, it takes a little moolah, like always. And I really do appreciate it. Thank y'all guys for another episode of Saturday Night Tech Talk. This is Eric from Easy Computer Solutions. I will see y'all guys on the next video. Peace.